Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, February 6th. That's right. We're into the second month of the new year. If you're not banging it out, now's the time to start. If you've joined us before, then you know I'm a sales trainer and coach, and I work with individuals and organizations all over the world to help them do one thing and one thing only: get measurable and sustainable sales increases. And if you've joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And today is no exception, my friends. Today's guest is the executive director of sales at SFMC Home Lending. He's a professional speaker and leadership coach who blends real-world business experience with powerful personal stories to inspire lasting growth. And besides being in leadership for over 2 decades, I'm really interested in this. Our guest has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, if you heard last week, I talked about how much I think it's cool to climb Everest. Kilimanjaro is cool too, because it's Africa's highest peak. The experience takes people like John through 5 distinct ecological zones, from a tropical rainforest to an alpine desert, and finally the Arctic Summit. Please welcome today's guest, John Donnelly. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Jeff. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. Hearing that and revisiting all those layers of that mountain climb was just awesome. So
I can't wait to hear about it. But before we do, John, could you maybe give us the 2-minute version of your background? What brought you up to this point?
Yeah, for sure. I started in the mortgage industry as a loan officer back in 1997, and I originated a bunch of loans, and then I started leading teams, and then I started developing branches and kind of led to a region. And I look back over my life, and I've always kind of found myself in a leadership position, and it hasn't changed. So, I'm in my 50s, and I'm just doing, I feel like what my calling is. I'm leading teams and coaching and developing business and doing all that stuff for a mortgage company.
Super good. You're breaking up a little bit now, John. What made you decide that you wanted to go from selling mortgages to leading people? Because that's a big shift. And quite often my experience is that when somebody's approached to say, hey, we want to make you a manager, we want to turn you into a leader, it sounds great because it sounds like you're going to work less hard and make more money. No, you're not. You're going to work harder and probably make less money than your top producers, at least. So what made you decide you wanted to go into management and leadership?
Yeah, I think I had a lot of success as a loan officer, but it felt kind of mundane, like the same thing over and over. And I got a lot more fulfillment out of helping other people, have that success. And so, I've always done loans and been part of that, but just naturally I started helping other people, and you just know inside, like, that's your calling. I know that that's my calling. And of course, it's almost like the coach of an NFL team makes less money than the best players, but the coach is really important too. And that's kind of how I see my role. Is I'm kind of like the coach, helping those top tier athletes,
Yeah, exactly. And I think you nailed it. If you're in sales and you're considering sales management, if you're not the type of person who likes to help others, who genuinely wants to see them succeed as opposed to yourself succeeding, management's not for you, because management truly is, we hear the term servant leadership all the time, but it's true. If you don't really want to help others, then just keep selling. And actually, if you don't want to help others, selling's not a great career for you either, because selling is serving. But yeah, management is all about, how do I help other people make as much money as they possibly can, serve as many people as they can. But I have to shift now, because I'm fascinated by anybody who's done what you've done. What motivated you to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in the first place? And how do resilience and vision and purposeful how do resilience, vision, and purpose drive results when the path gets steep and the going gets tough? I know that was a mouthful, but take it away, John.
Yeah, no. The quick story is, in 2015, I was at an event where you write a life plan, and the speaker was Bob Goff. I don't know have you ever heard of Bob Goff? He's an amazing guy. I love this guy, but he told a story about, he's an attorney, and he went to Africa to take on these witch doctors because they were sacrificing young boys and cutting their privates off. And it's this crazy story, right? So you're sucked in. And he ends up adopting one of the boys and saves him. Charlie's his name. And so in Bob Goff's family, when you turn 10, you get to choose your adventure. Well, Charlie chose to climb Kilimanjaro. So he went and told this story about what it was like to climb Kilimanjaro with Charlie. And it was so fascinating to me. I was like, I wrote in my life plan at that event, I want to climb Kilimanjaro. This was 2015. And so I kind of had it in my brain, but I never took action. Well, then I read this book last year called The 12-Hour Walk. And it challenges you to go out your front door, walk for 12 hours, no music, just kind of like a meditation walk, and just keep notes. And all it kept coming up in my head was, I got to do Kilimanjaro. Like, this is my time. I'm turning 50. If I'm ever going to do it, this is it. And also, it's a cool adventure. And I'm a little fluffy. Like, I need to get in shape a little more, like that was this. If I pick this goal, it's going to accomplish all these things for me. And that was it. I just saw the vision. I was like, I know it's my time. This is it. And so I saw this Instagram ad like the next week, and this new gym opened. I happened to go up there. I started training with these guys, and I went after it, and I went and I did the mountain. So it was awesome. It was everything you can dream of. Like, the adventure was great. It was really hard. It was very fulfilling. It was a little bit crazy, like all that stuff. It was awesome.
Hey, with the 12-hour walk, don't you have to walk 24 hours? Because how do you get back?
Yeah, no, you just walk for 12 hours. I told my wife, I said, hey, I read this book and I'm leaving at 5:30 on Saturday morning, like the next morning, right? And it was like 2 days. She goes, what are you doing now? I go, I'm walking for 12 hours. You can see me on Live 360. Pick me up at 5:30 at night. I don't care where I'm at. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just walking. And it was cool to do it that way. That's kind of how the book suggested. And what's cool about that for me was, I've told a lot of people to read this book, and most people think about it. They try to pick the perfect moment. Eventually I'll do it, and they never do it, right? The few people that do it are the ones that just do it like real soon. They just go do it. They read the book and then walk out the door, and then it means something to them. I've had some of my kids' friends do it. I've had coworkers do it, people at other companies, and they always have the same story I did. It was amazing, but you just got to go do it like right now. You can't think about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can't think about it at all, but I'm with you.
A little bit. You gotta have a little plan.
Yeah, there's like some thought.
Yeah,
but quite often we think ourselves out of doing things. And I co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals, and in there we talk about, you just got to get going. It's harder to get going than it is to stay going, and it's not always easy to stay going either. But the hardest part is taking that first step and making it happen. And one of the pieces of advice we give in our book is, most goal-setting experts say that if you set a goal and you don't take some action towards achieving it within 72 hours, you probably never will. We feel differently. That same day. In fact, if you can do something immediately, you set a goal, even if it's the littlest thing, just to get going, it makes a difference. And I'm curious, why is it that it's not easy to walk for 12 hours. I'm guessing it's not easy to climb Kilimanjaro. Why do you like doing hard things?
Well, for me, it proves to me that I still can overcome things. And I think we clipped out for a minute. The main thing it does is it makes all of my challenges in work easy, because I've proven to myself I can do all these physical, hard, things and mentally overcome them. So everything else feels easier. I think that's really it for me. I think that's the answer.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you a million. It's why I've jumped out of an airplane. If you can jump out of an airplane, and I've done it twice now. Once years and years ago when disco was still big. That's how old I am. And after jumping out of an airplane, I remember vividly. I'm seeing it in my mind right now. I was at a nightclub, and all the way across the dance floor was this stunning woman, and my head was going, "She's too good looking. You can't ask her to dance." And then my brain said, "Wait a minute. You jumped out of an airplane last weekend from 12,500 feet. I'm pretty sure you can ask, if you can risk death, you can pretty sure ask a woman to dance." And I walked over, and it served me well a million times. And when you do hard things, it makes it easier to do the easy things. Yes.
Yes. I mean, that's it. Making a cold call or whatever that thing are, the things you'd have to do in your business, they become so much easier. But anyway, that's what I think. The other thing I was just thinking, I think it's worth noting, is when I committed to Kilimanjaro and I started going to the gym, one of the things that I noticed was I got to the gym on time, early. I was motivated. it was because I knew I was climbing Kilimanjaro and I had to get in shape. I didn't want to go halfway up that mountain and not make it. And I told everybody on social media I was going, but what I realized when I was thinking back on it is like that motivation to go to the gym was so much higher than I've ever had before. If you don't have that big goal and the vision isn't clear, it's kind of easy to talk yourself out of going to the gym when you don't have that. And so that was just something that I was thinking about when you were saying that mattered to me. And then I get home and it's over and I'm back to that, like, now what am I going to do moment? And so,
yes, absolutely, positively. And it's almost, I mean, not really, but it's almost as if you gave yourself no choice. I'm climbing this mountain. If I'm going to do it out of shape, I guess you might have been able to do it, but probably, you were in much better chance of success by going to the gym. And when you take away all the excuses, and I love that you said picking up the phone and cold calling, because it gets a low result these days, but I still believe it should be part of almost every salesperson's prospecting mix. But for me, it's always been, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen?
yes.
Somebody yells at me, somebody swears at me, somebody hangs up on me. And I was taught years and years ago an acronym by a vice president of sales that I was doing some training for. And the acronym is SWSWSWN. SWSWSWN, which stands for some will, some won't, so what? Next.
There you go. I love that. That's awesome. That's a good one.
I know one of the things that you share in some of your talks is you talk about motivation and discipline. What's the difference between motivation and discipline? Are they both important? Does one drive each other? Can you speak to to that a little bit?
I think motivation for me is emotional. Like, if you get these moments where you like have this great idea, like I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro, and it feels emotionally exciting, and then that'll fade, right? But discipline is a decision you make every day to keep moving forward, right? And so to me, like, discipline is a decision. I had to get up every morning and go to the gym or go walk or whatever I was doing. And motivation helps you, but you don't always have motivation. You have to sometimes lean on that discipline. And I remember some days I was just walking in the dark, and I kind of like got excited because I'm like, this is where you win, in the dark by yourself when nobody sees you. Like, that's what discipline is to me, is just doing those things over and over and over again. And anyway, that's what I thought. And when it really shows up is when you need it the most, right? Like, your discipline is all the small actions. And then when there's that moment, like summit night on climbing Kilimanjaro, when you're getting pushed to the limit, that's when all the work is paid off. And you really appreciate when you had discipline and not just motivation, So I don't know. That's how I think about it.
And do you have any tips, tricks, or tools for when your discipline is fading? Like, I'm betting there were some days when you got up and said, I just don't want to go to the gym. I know I need to. I know I'm going to be climbing this mountain. Yeah. How do you when the discipline is fading, where do you draw from?
Where I draw from is, like, when I was training for Kilimanjaro, what I would think about is how disappointed I was going to be if I didn't make it to the top of that mountain, and what that was going to mean for me. I'm going to fly all the way to Africa. I'm going to spend 7 days climbing this mountain. And if I have to come home and tell my friends that I didn't make it, that's the moment. And so I think having the clear vision of what you're training for or what your business is trying to do, that clear vision is the answer. Because if you know why, then everything else falls in place. It's easy, And then when it's over, like my journey's over. I did the mountain, and I'm learning, like, I've learned a lot of lessons from that, but I'm kind of finding myself going, what's next? I need the next thing, because that's my motivation and discipline and all that. I'm looking for that.
Very cool. I love that you said, I didn't want to come home and tell people I tried, but I didn't make it. I mentioned to you, I love the movie Everest. I love watching people who are. I have VR glasses, and I'm constantly looking at people climbing Everest, which it's incredible. I mean, the VR glass. I watched the movie Everest. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I saw it. I'm into it.
Yeah. So I watched that movie, and I go, oh my God, I want to do this, but I am absolutely not willing to go through the pain that these people are going through. And I'm going to keep talking because you're frozen right now, John. I'm open. There you go. You're back.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know
It's
what's
a bandwidth
happening.
issue,
Like,
my friend. Might be time to reboot your router, but not right now.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I guess. Oh, okay. I actually was on a plane and I flew around Everest last week, 10 days ago. How cool is this?
Wow, that's very
I got
cool.
to fly around the top of it. I went to Kathmandu to speak at a leadership conference, and I got food poisoning, and I didn't get to speak. It's a whole thing. I know it was that feeling that we're talking about. Like, imagine if you go all the way to Africa and you don't get to do it. I felt that feeling there. I felt so disappointed for what I prepared and the people I was going to speak with. It was just awful. I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't get out of bed. I'm just telling you. But the one thing I did for fun the day before all that, when I first landed, was I flew around Everest. I mean, I could literally almost tell if there's people up there. It was so close. Amazing. Because my next journey I've been wanting to do is hike to base camp. I don't want to hike Everest to the summit. I want to hike to base camp.
Yep, which is also incredibly difficult and painful and cold and all that stuff. But for me, it's when I watch the
12 days.
Yeah, there's all these people, lined up, and most of them don't summit. Most of them never make it to the top. And you just said,
right.
I didn't want to come home and tell people, I didn't make it. And the thought in my head was, I wouldn't want to do that either. Except, you know what? Just making it close to the top is still this unbelievable achievement, which takes amazing commitment. You said, people die. And again, I'm not willing to put myself through that. I mean, it looks unbelievably painful. Shortness of breath and, the cold. I hate being cold. I forgot. Where are you, John, located?
I'm in Dallas.
Okay. So I'm in New York. I'm in New York. I turned off my phone so that it didn't ring. But this morning it was 20 degrees when he's laying behind me, so I got to spell it. When I WALK'd the DOG, and it's supposed to get the coldest this weekend that it's been, I think, in like 20 years. So I can't even imagine what it's like standing in line there, not moving, waiting for people to move up inch by inch, knowing you could die. I mean, just brutal, amazing. I think the word that comes to mind for me, discipline is important, motivation is important, but to me, it always boils down to commitment. It's either you're committed or you're not. When I help salespeople define goals, I always tell them the same thing. I don't care what you want. I don't care what you hope for. I don't care what your dreams are. I don't even care what your goals are. And I co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals. Now, of course, I care about all those things as a human, but as a coach, the only thing I care about is what are you committed to? Because to me, commitment is what carries you through when the going gets tough.
Yes, that's well said. I love that. I think how I relate to that is I had a friend of mine early on when I decided to do Kilimanjaro that said he wanted to go. And so I get all the paperwork together. I have this connection to the guides, and then it's time to pay. And he didn't pay. He didn't want to, he backed out. And I already told everybody I was committed, just like you said. I was committed. I told everybody. And so I said, you know what? I'm going by myself. If that's what I got to do, I'm going. And my wife didn't love that either. But hey, she's like, you're going to Africa by yourself. But there's a whole nother story about a guy that ended up joining me kind of last minute. And he went with me, and that was cool. But I ended up having a friend go with me. I didn't expect it, but I was going to go no matter what because I was committed, just like you said. There was no turning back.
Yeah, the friend who didn't come with you, he wanted to go. He wasn't committed to going. And it was the same. Look, the first time I went skydiving, and this was a million years ago, but every year for like 7 years in a row, I had a bunch of friends and I said, come on, let's go skydiving. And everybody goes, yeah. And then, a few days before, oh, I can't make it. And every year we canceled. And the year I actually went, I invited a bunch of people and I said to myself, even if nobody else goes, I'm going this year. I don't need anybody to be with me. I'm going. And it turned out a couple of friends did come with me, but it's when you make that decision and you're 100% in, there's no chance of me stopping. That's when you do it, whether people show up or not. One of the things I often advise salespeople, and cold calling is the perfect example, is they need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Does that translate to a climb like Kilimanjaro?
Oh, for sure. I mean, everything is uncomfortable in a sense. You're sleeping in a tent. You're don't really take a shower. You kind of wipe yourself down. You know, you have the same clothes a lot of days. You're changing layers. It's freezing cold. It was minus 19 on the top. You know, we left at 11 p.m. and didn't get to the top until 7:30 a.m. All through the night, we went up almost 4,000 feet straight up. That's uncomfortable. It's hard, you know? And I think that it builds character. You know, you go back to like, if you can do those uncomfortable things and get used to it, then, you know, making a cold call, like we said earlier, is not that hard, or whatever challenge you're facing is not as hard.
Yeah. You know? I think if you've climbed to the top of Kilimanjaro, making a cold call is not too scary.
Right. Exactly. You know, and so it's funny how those things relate, but they really do. I mean, they really do relate. Those personal challenges that you have to overcome. For me, even like getting out in the morning in the dark and putting in miles in, you know, just training is uncomfortable. You know, sometimes it's cold and sometimes it's too hot and sometimes you don't feel good, but you get through it and you always feel good when it's over. Like you always feel good when you're done.
Yeah. And am I correct? You talked about, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and then climbing for 7 hours. This is not a one-day climb, right? You do this in stages over a week or so, or something like that?
Yeah, it was 7 days. 7 days. I joined a group climb. We had 11 climbers, 5 guides, and 40 porters carrying our gear. That's a lot of people going all at once. And so it was a team effort. And you have to acclimate because you go up to 19.3 basically is your top altitude. And not everybody made it in our group. And it's challenging because you don't acclimate. Like you don't know if you're going to acclimate. Some of the most fit people, their bodies just shut down and they don't acclimate to the altitude. And so that's part of what it is you work your way up and you come down and sleep, and you work your way up and come down and sleep, trying to get your body to acclimate to the altitude.
I know that when people visit Machu Picchu in South America, that they drink, I think, cocaine tea or something like that. Did you have something like that helped you acclimate?
Yeah, I don't know. I took Diamox, which is a pill that it helps your body deal with it. And then all we drank was water and hot tea. They had a couple different hot teas, but I don't know that they were crazy cocaine teas or something like that. They tasted amazing. I'll tell you that. Everything tasted good on that because you're going 10 miles a day or whatever, you know, and you're exerting all this energy. So all your food and anything you would take in tasted wonderful. So.
Yeah, I saw the pictures and I'm looking at them going, you know, that does not look like haute cuisine, but I guess when you're exerting all that and you've got this commitment, anything tastes good, right?
Anything tastes good. Anything they put in front of us, things I may not normally eat, I was eating and I loved it. So it was fun.
Gotcha. So one of the things you talk about due to the climb, and I know this helped shape your leadership and your perspective on business. What's the idea of the second mountain? What does that mean?
Yeah, this is kind of something I've been just thinking about that's really coming to me. So the first mountain to me is climbing Kilimanjaro. That's your personal achievement, right? Like I think of even in my business, a loan officer hits their $100 million goal or whatever that number is. That's your first mountain. That's kind of like the thing you do by yourself. And really what hit me when I was coming down, when it was 13 hours of down. So that coming down is hard. And I got to the top of the mountain. I wasn't actually really excited. I was relieved because I made it. I knew I could go home and be like, thank goodness I can tell everybody I made it. I didn't even feel that much excitement. That's the weird part. I mean, I should have. And I mentioned earlier, a buddy of mine, Mark Cable, went with me. He and I have done business together for 20 years. He's a realtor. I'm a loan officer, that type of thing. And so he was at lunch with me about 4 months before I left and said, hey, I think I want to go on this trip with you. And I was like, Mark, you're older than me. You've never even mentioned you want to do something like this. Why? And he goes, I feel called to go with you because I don't want you to be alone and do this by yourself. And I was like, who does that? Right. And it didn't really process with me until I was coming down the mountain. And when I was coming down, I was with Mark and I was like, this guy, I'm telling you, everything we did it could have been, hey, where do you want to eat dinner? He would go, hey, this is your journey. I'm just here to be with you. And I've never experienced that kind of friendship to that level, right? And so I was coming down and I was talking to Mark, and I was moved, if you will, by that level of friendship. And I started thinking about like what this means to me, because the goal was my goal. It was my goal to climb this mountain. But now there's like, when you get to the top, you see other mountains. So you got to come down to go back up another mountain. That's your next goal, right? And so I think the first mountain in your life, whatever that is your personal achievement that you go and do. But your next mountain is kind of your legacy. And it's about taking other people with you. And I think what I learned was Mark's impact on me, and the way he treated me, and the way he came with me just to be my friend, to make sure I was safe in this crazy adventure, was what kind of makes me think about that second mountain, and the team that's involved, and the legacy you leave behind, and servant leadership, and how you treat everybody. Now I know how to climb that mountain. So that first mountain is my own achievement. The next one is bringing people with me and coaching them up and going with them and all that type of stuff. That's what it kind of means to me.
Love it. My coach talks a lot about grit, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
How do you define grit? Is grit something we're born with, or can it be developed? And why is grit so important?
I think grit is what, when your motivation fades, grit is what makes you honor your commitments. I guess that's the best way for me that I think about it. Grit is like those reps that you do over and over when it's hard and nobody's looking and it's dark and it's lonely. It's the promise you keep to yourself. That's what grit is. And if you do that, if you have grit and you keep the promise to yourself, you're going to do amazing things in the rest of your life for everybody else,
Yeah, that's the way my coach defines it too. The ability to do tough things even when you don't want to.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I always say that there's a price to pay for everything. Whatever you want, you can have it if you're willing to pay the price. And that's a lesson I've taught my kids, since they were very young. You can do anything you want, but there's going to be a price. So to climb Kilimanjaro, you had to pay. I'm assuming there's a bunch of money you had to pay, but you also had to invest time away from your family, away from your business. You had to go work out every day. There's a price to pay for everything. I think that's what the grit's about. It's like doing all that stuff, even when you don't want to.
But it also makes it more rewarding. The bigger the price, the bigger the reward, in my opinion.
Yep.
So I think about that.
In your talks on leadership, I know leadership's a very big a subject for you. One of the takeaways attendees get from your leadership talk is leading with integrity. Now, to me, I don't know any other way, but I know we don't live in a world where everybody believes that integrity is important. Could you please talk a little bit about integrity and why is it important, especially for salespeople and leaders?
I think like your reputation is like your resume. It's the real you. It's doing the right thing. Like integrity is doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking, or if it costs you, and you think, I agree with you. Like that's the way we do things. That's who we are. So you don't really question if you have integrity, in my opinion. But I don't think about integrity every day, but I think about it when I see people that don't have it, and it stands out big time to me. And so integrity is like, it's how you kind of focus under pressure. It's like making those right decisions. It's your moral compass. It's all those things that you have inside of you that make you who you are. And you hope that when somebody says your name, that's just a natural thing. They're like, oh yeah, he's an honest, straightforward, straight shooting, integrity type of person. You exude that. It's just very critical to me. My kids know the one thing that'll set me off is you tell a lie. You tell a lie to me, that's my worst thing. I just can't stand it. And so I've taught my kids that, and that's how we work. And you don't have to remember lies. Life is easy. You're honest and you do the right thing. And that sometimes means that the right thing with that integrity is going to set you back, or you may not get the recognition you want or whatever, but you'll be happy eventually that you made that decision. It all comes around.
Yeah,
So
there's another acronym that I taught my kids, and it's ADTRT, which stands for always do the right thing.
yeah,
And you know, I grew up learning that, you know, if you do the right thing, you get the right thing, and honesty is the best policy, and crime doesn't pay, and stuff like that. And we're living in a world where it keeps getting shown to not be true over and over and over. And I actually struggle. I don't struggle with my own integrity, because for me,
yeah,
after my 3 kids and my dog, the most important thing in the world to me is my integrity.
yeah,
I am committed to being known as a person who, if Jeff gives you his word, it's going to get done. That's just the
yes,
way I believe in living my life. You know,
yeah,
I've spent a lot of money and time in seminar rooms and studied personal development for 50 years now. And, you know, one of the things I learned is one of the keys to succeeding in life is very simple. Tell the truth, keep your commitments. You do
yeah,
that, everything works out. Tell the truth and keep your commitments. But we keep seeing it over and over in business and politics. Lying seems to work pretty well for a lot of people. So
oh my gosh,
how does
I
somebody
know.
like yourself, who and me, who believe integrity is the way, but it keeps getting shown that it's not, how do we teach our kids?
That's a great question. I think we teach them by example, and we have to show them when we see things that don't fit our integrity, you know, whether it's politics or whatever you see, you got to point it out and show them this isn't okay. You know, they need to be able to recognize it, but they ultimately model you, your kids or your employees or whoever, they model your behavior, they follow you, right? And so you have to be sound on who you are. That's what you keep going to. I have a little story I want to share.
Hopefully John's picture will come back and he'll share that story with us in a moment. While we're waiting for that, I just want to reinforce that it is February now. And if you have been taking it easy in January, now is the time to get going. John's back. There you go. And John's frozen again. All right. I told John before we started, technology is great when it works. There you are.
How?
Ouch.
I'm getting tested.
Yes.
I don't know.
We
Sorry.
have integrity, but not great technology today.
I've had no issues. I know I'm really struggling. I've lived on Zoom and Teams and all that, and I've had no issues until the moment I need it to work. You know.
You were saying that you had a story that you wanted to share.
A little quick story. It's kind of fun. Like when I did that 12-hour walk, one of the things I was thinking about is, who do I want to model myself after? Like, what kind of professionals would I pick? And I came up with this. You know, there's a couple books from like Good to Great and a couple others. They have this idea of this board of directors. So I was thinking, like, who's my 10 people that I would model myself after in my career? And so I went through and I thought about different people and I picked 10 of them. And then I went back and picked why I picked those 10 people. And I ended up thinking, like, what's the one thing they all have in common? And my word was, they're all a class act. You know, they have integrity. They present themselves a certain way. So that was kind of a fun thought. But I've used this board of directors idea a few times when I've had some thoughts like, how do I want to show up at this event or a podcast or a meeting or whatever? And I want to be prepared and I want to deliver a certain way. And I want to be like the people on my board of directors. And I literally would think, how would this person, John Maxwell's on my board, or Jesse Itzler's on my board, how would they handle this situation? I don't know him. I don't really talk to him, but it's kind of a fun idea. And it kind of comes back into that integrity thing. You know, Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite people because of the way he would train when nobody else would, you know, and he had this Mamba mentality and all this type of stuff. And so I kind of reflect on that. So I would challenge people, like, figure out who lives the values you want and model yourself after them. And I'm now reading books about those 10 people and like learning more about them just because I think it's fun. And it's something it's like a little exercise I've been working through. So it's kind of it's something that I really went deep on in that 12-hour walk. 12 hours is a long time to think. And so
with no headphones and no music. You got, when you don't have anything to listen to, all you have is your own thoughts.
Exactly. So that's one of my thoughts. One of the things I got in a big rabbit hole on, but it's been good for me.
Yeah, I love that board of directors idea. And one of the cool things about the time we're living in is you can use AI to create your board of directors. You can write a simple prompt that, take these 10 people, you name them, and create a board of directors that's going to advise me and lead me. I mean, I'm not a prompt expert,
Yes.
but the AI can help you create your own board of directors.
It really has. I've actually done that. What really did it for me was there's a book called Your Next 5 Moves by Bet David. And I read this book a few years ago. The one thing that stuck out was he had a painting made of his 10 people on his board. And he had them on his wall in his office, and he had them interacting in a certain way. And I've always thought about that. I thought that was really cool. Now with AI, we can recreate stuff like that. But that's the thought, the vision that got me going down this path of who are my 10 people,
Brilliant. Love it. You also talk about the need to stay focused under pressure. And in sales, we're under constant pressure to perform and produce. It never lets up. One of the things I always like to say is, there's not a single organization in the world that in January ever told a salesperson, hey, you know what? You did so well last year. Take it easy this year. Don't worry.
You're right.
Sales truly is a game of what have you done for me lately? And there's just no taking a break. There just isn't. So how do we stay focused when the pressure is relentless?
Yeah, I think that, experience in situations with a lot of pressure help for sure. But for me, it's like you can only control like your inputs, what you do. You can't control all the outcomes. And so the first thing is you got to focus on what you can control. And in that part of it, like when the pressure is really high, I notice in myself, I can slow everything down when the pressure is really high for some reason, and think about my moves. I think it's the Navy SEALs say slow is smooth, or slow is smooth, smooth is fast, or I missed it. Anyway, yeah, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. But anyway, if you slow down and you think through your decisions, when pressure gets really high, then you actually can control your situation by just focusing on what you can control. I think the other thing in sales for me, this is my thing with, are we clipping out?
I've got you now.
Are we there?
Yeah. Oh, not now. Come back, John. So while John is hopefully coming back to us, I'll just finish my thought. Quite often people take it easy through January because they think nobody wants to hear from them. If you did that, February is the time to get going, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to call somebody like me or John or any other coach in October or November and say, hey, I need some help to hit my quota because it's too late. John's back. You were telling a story. All right.
Yeah, I think I'm so sorry. This is frustrating to me so much.
Gotcha.
I guess I do need to reset my router. I don't know.
Yeah, you probably just need to reboot your router.
What I always tell people when the pressure gets high, I guess, I didn't know I needed to, but when the pressure gets high in our business, we're in a transaction and people are buying a house, and then something gets to the last minute. It feels like somebody's about to die sometimes. The pressure gets so high. I tell all my salespeople, like, double your communication. What happens, a lot of people get scared and they don't start calling, and they're not sure, and they think, oh, I'm going to fix it in the background. I'm like, double your communication. If you say you're going to call them in an hour, text them and email them and call them in an hour, or call them in 30 minutes. Just tell them you're working on it. Tell them it's going to be okay. Tell them, like that takes the pressure way down when they know somebody's not going to run and hide. I think that's it for me. We've all been in a situation with pressure where people run and hide and you can't get a hold of them. Like, don't let them think that's going to happen. That will take a lot of the pressure down just by getting rid of that one thing.
Yeah, and I get this call a lot, John. Hey Jeff, I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. I'm motionless. I can't get going. Nothing's coming in. I'm not making any money. I'm go out. What do I do? And my answer is always this: be in action. You can't sit around doing nothing and expect something to change. So I get this call regularly. Nothing's working. Well, are you prospecting? No, I can't even pick up the phone. I can't send an email. Okay, pick up the phone, send an email, use LinkedIn, go knock on it. You got to be doing something. You can't expect to sit there and have situations just work themselves out, although sometimes they do. But when your money's on the line, if you're committed to serving as many people and making as much money as you possibly can, you got to be in action, even when it looks like nothing's happening. I'd rather be doing the wrong thing and be in action than doing nothing. Now, of course, using a coach like yourself or any other coach, can help you, point you in the right direction so that you're doing the right actions, the right activities. But sitting around and hoping for things to change, I think we all know that hope is not a great strategy. And, that's when people, they give up and they go out of business. They close a business.
Exactly.
Down. Here's another one that happens. I'm leaving sales. Sales isn't for me. You're right. Maybe sales wasn't for you. Maybe you need to go work at some job where it's not that much pressure and it's not based on your personal activity all day long, but you got to be in action. Something else you talk about, John, which I'm big on, you talk about transparency, and I love that. And I've mentioned the book, The Transparency Sale, on this podcast many, many times. I'm friends with the author, Todd Capone. I consider it one of the best sales books of the last 20 years, if not the best. You use a transparent business model. How does the transparent business model help to build trust and help you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, this has evolved over the last couple of years with our industry. A lot of people have gotten out of it. Rates went up. It's been a really challenging few years. And the thing that we noticed was a lot of mortgage bankers, they have a margin built in, and everybody thinks there's a lot of money in that margin. Nobody knows what the margin is. A lot of companies aren't transparent. And so we said, what if we could take that curtain away and show you the company margin and show you what we're going to take to run our company, And so we have the all-in margin that we sell loans for, and we take our piece of it, like a franchise fee or whatever you want to call it, just our operating cost. And then that gives you the ability to know what levers to pull, what margins are at, how to trust us. I mean, we literally show you what we're selling loans at. And that changed the game for us. There's no hidden fees. We call it the Clearview model. And it's just that, like, it's been amazing for us because we got rid of all the uncertainty and all of those little ghosts that people see, or they think that you're making all this extra money or you have ability to help them and you're not because you have money to do this or that with. And all that stuff was gone. And so for us, like, it's the only way to operate now. I think it's just the way to do it. In our industry, for all the years I've been in it, it wasn't that way. There was always this back end margin the companies were making. And so we don't have that anymore. And other people are starting to adopt that, and our industry is kind of changing because we demand it. I think in sales, it's like we need to know. And competition is so high right now that if you don't know what your margins are and you can't position yourself to win, you're kind of at a disadvantage. And so we give you all those tools in our model to compete in a market that's changing, and evolving every day. So.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000,000%. Salespeople need to be able to justify their price, and they've got to get rid of. I talk about head trash a lot. The stuff that's in your head that sounds like it's true, except it isn't, but it keeps you from doing stuff. And it's ridiculous for salespeople to think they can't be transparent about their pricing because, well, if I'm transparent, they're going to know I'm making a profit. Well, guess what? There's nobody who does business with anybody that doesn't think that you're making a profit. When I go to a restaurant, I want them to make a profit. I want them to stay in business. I want them to serve me good food. Anybody, I'll tell this quickly, and it's a long story that I'm going to make very short. And I think I might have told it here before. But when I bought my first house with my now ex-wife, it's her house now. But the first thing we did was we replaced the windows, and I brought 3 different guys in to give us estimates on the windows. First guy gave me an estimate. Second guy, same exact. I got the model numbers, same estimate, same. He gave me an estimate, and the third guy gave me an estimate too. But the second guy and the third guy, I told them what the first guy was charging me, and they both said, "There's no way this guy can charge you that. He's losing money on the deal. No way." And I said, are you BSing? No way. So I actually called back the first guy and said, "Hey, man, I've talked to 2 other people. I want these windows and I want to work with you. But 2 guys told me you're losing money on this deal. Can you please rework the numbers and just make sure that everything's kosher and you can do it?" And he called me back about an hour later and apologized, said, "I did make a mistake. I am going to lose money on this deal, but I'm a man of integrity and I will come do it." Except what I said to him was, I appreciate the offer, but please rework the numbers and put in a reasonable profit for yourself. I don't want to put your kids through college. I don't want to send you on your 10-week European vacation, but I want you to make a profit, because if I need you a year from now because something's wrong, I don't want you thinking, I lost money on that deal. Now I got to service this guy. So it's reasonable to expect that anybody who does a service for you is going to make a profit.
Yeah, that's a great story. I totally agree with you. I love that story.
Yeah. Something else you talk about, to switch a little bit, because I love woo-woo type of stuff, is I know you speak about vision boards. I know what they are, but for those who are unfamiliar, what is a vision board and how and why do we use it?
Yeah, vision board is kind of what it sounds like. It's just pictures and words and images that you put onto a board, literally on a board, and hang it up somewhere, or put it on your phone background, or put it in your mirror in your bathroom, or wherever it is you want to see it. And what I think is cool about it is going through the process of making it, you have to pick your goals and figure out where you're going. And then you actually get to see this image, and your kids see it, and your wife sees it, and your coworkers see it, whoever you want to see it. And so you're kind of putting yourself out there by creating that vision board, assuming you share it with people. But we've done some classes on it, and, it's the process of creating it is actually the coolest part of it. You having it when it's done is nice and all that, but having to go through and pick your goals is it. Define the words that you want on this board, and what's your word for the year going to be, or what are those there's a term I use called misogi. A misogi is a Japanese term. It's a year defining event. And so, and the way I see it is it needs to be so hard that you only have a 50% chance of doing it. So it doesn't have to be physical, but like it could be running a marathon, climbing a mountain, writing a book, whatever that is, launching a podcast, something, whatever your thing is. You want to look back and say, oh, in 2025, I climbed Kilimanjaro. In 2024, I wrote a book, or whatever the thing is. Like that I kind of talk about a misogi when we do vision boards as well. Like, what's your one thing that's going to define your year? And so that's another cool thing to just kind of add to it.
Yeah. For those who are aware or maybe not aware, you talk about something called the law of attraction, that what you focus on intently tends to be attracted into your life. And the vision board, you're actually creating your future. I have a friend and colleague, Lindsay Hack, who helps people use AI to create these amazing visions of themselves. Mm-hmm. And again, we're living in an incredible time. You have all these great tools to do it, but this is kind of woo-woo, except I believe in it. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe that, what you focus on intently tends to be attracted into your life. The one argument I make against the way most people promote the law of attraction is they talk about you have to feel the right feelings and think the right thoughts, and whatever you want is going to come to you, except they left out one thing. You do have to feel the right feelings. You do have to think the right thoughts, but you also have to take action. Money's not just going to fall out of the sky because I have a vision of money falling out of the sky. That would be, if it did, I would have been wealthy and retired a long time ago.
No, that's totally true. And I agree with your woo-woo-ness about it. Like everything I've ever wanted in my life has started with a thought that I've processed and then put out into the universe. And when you start looking for something, you find it, is how I kind of explain it. And so if I just, like, I had this vision go all the way back to that 2015, I wanted a lake house for my family, and I wanted a driveway that was wavy, and I wanted a tire swing, and I wanted to see the front door of the lake house, and I wanted to see the lake in the back. I had such a vivid image of this that I put that out in the universe. And when we actually sold our lake house, we built this exact house, and I sold it a couple years ago. And when we were selling it, we were doing the pictures, and they had a drone out there. And I said, hang on, I can actually recapture the vision of what I wrote with this drone right now. And I flew it down the driveway and everything that I just laid out. And I thought that was so cool to see that happen. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that clear image and then just keep putting it out there. I kept telling my wife, this is what we want, and this is what we're going to go after, and this is what we're going to have. And we had this cool experience at this lake house for 9 years. And it was great. But it didn't happen if I didn't have the thought first to then create it. And then I didn't know if I could afford it or what it's going to look like or anything. I just started going after it, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if it's in the movie The Secret or What the Bleep Do We Know? But in one of those, John, I think its name is pronounced Asaraf, talks about, he's going through stuff in his office and he brings out a picture of a house and he looks at it and he goes, oh my God, I just realized that I had this picture of this house. It's the house I live in now. He had a picture of the house he wanted, and he actually ended up buying that house and forgot that he had created that vision by using a picture years before. Amazing, right? Very, very
that is
cool.
Amazing. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. LinkedIn is another topic you speak about, and I can't tell you how much I love LinkedIn. I think it's the salesperson's best friend, and you don't have to have a paid version, although I do. A substantial portion of my business comes from LinkedIn, and it's not from me reaching out to people saying, hey, do you need any sales training or do you need any sales coaching? What can you tell us about using LinkedIn in sales?
Yeah, I think, first of all, if you Google your name or your name in your title or what you do, your LinkedIn search result is in the top 3 to 5 results. And I don't know if people really realize that. So if you're having a LinkedIn account and somebody looks you up, they're going to find you on LinkedIn. And so that's like your digital business card. So when I click on that and I look you up, have you spent the time to build your profile out? I talk a lot to realtors and I teach a CE class on this, and they don't know what to do with LinkedIn. And so the first thing I say is, let's just say there's a professional, business person, and they have a couple different realtors they're going to call. They're going to Google you first and look you up. They're going to look at your LinkedIn profile, especially if they use LinkedIn in their business. And if you don't have a banner and you don't have a recommendation in the last 10 years and you don't have a profile, if you just haven't taken the time to build it out, they're not going to call you. Like, let's just start there. You're not attracting people to you. Take the 30 minutes it takes to build your profile out to attract people to you, because LinkedIn is that. It's also like the Chamber of Commerce. It's okay to stand up every day on LinkedIn and tell people what you do. Like, how cool is that? And so I believe I had a coach tell me in 2019, I need you to start posting on LinkedIn every day, he said Monday through Sunday, every day until you quit working. Like, just that's your mindset. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And now I post pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. And it's a game changer for me, and you can't judge all your effort off of how many likes and comments you get. I'll walk into a room with mortgage professionals and all different companies, and they'll come and start telling me about my posts on LinkedIn. And I'm like, you've never commented or liked or anything. It's amazing how people do see you, but you don't know it. You just don't know it until you hear the stories. And so, I love LinkedIn too. So we could probably talk about it for a long time, but it's a necessary thing for any professional to be on and at least build your profile out. If you don't want to commit the time to it, at least build your profile out so you're attracting the right people to you at the minimum.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's how I get business on LinkedIn. I'm not reaching out to anybody going, do you need any sales training? I post 5 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And all I'm posting is content. Valuable. Yeah. I'm giving away the advice that I sell to people. Every now and then there's an ad, but most of it, I'd say 90% of what I do is just, here's some information that's going to help you sell better. Here's some information that's going to motivate you. Here's some, whatever it is, but I'm just giving it away because I find when you're generous, when you generously share your knowledge with people, some of them do reach out to you. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who raise their hand. I don't want to be calling people all day long. And I teach people how to do it, but I don't want to do that. I want people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in what you've got. That's a much easier sell than somebody who you call up cold and say, hey, need any sales training today? Need a mortgage today? Need whatever today? And I'm not against that as long as you do it well. And I can't resist mentioning, when I say do it well, here's the way to not do it. Do not reach out to me or John. And when we accept your connection request, do not immediately say, hey, here's how I got help coaches, or here's how I help mortgage professionals. Yes. That's called pitch slapping. Please don't do that. LinkedIn is a great tool, but don't use it right. I always equate it to this, John. Me walking up to a woman in a bar who I've never met before. I don't go to bars, but if I did, and just saying, hey, want to come back to my place? Not, my name is Jeff. What's yours? Not, can I buy you a drink? Not, can we go out on a date? I want to come back to my place. Maybe if I was, 30 years younger and looked like Brad Pitt or had $100 bills hanging out of my pockets, maybe that would work. But forming a relationship and earning the right works better. Yes.
Oh, for sure. Gary Vee has a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. You don't even need to read it. All it means is give, give, give before you ask for the business,
And he does.
And that's it. Like, that's the answer right there.
Yeah,
And
I can't say I agree with everything that Gary Vee says, but the guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to using social media and building a business. There's no doubt about that.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
For those who are in your industry, in the mortgage industry, how do you envision, say, the next 5 years, and what should professionals focus on to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I think the next 5 years is gonna evolve for loan officers, realtors. AI is gonna take like a lot of the tasks away that we do, so it's gonna get easier. We're gonna have to do more volume and probably a little less comp is what it's gonna kind of look like. Margins keep compressing. Realtor commissions are under fire. Mortgage companies' margins are down, but the person that uses AI to get organized and on scale do more is going to win really big, actually. And I think that AI is great for those tasks, but nothing replaces that trust or that integrity. There's still a place, even today, where a lot of the younger kids are using online searches and they do all these things. There's a point where all of them freak out, want to talk to you. There's always a relationship moment. And you got to position yourself for that. And AI and all this tech stuff, it helps people feel like they know you, but they don't. And at some point they're going to call you and they're going to engage with you. And you still got to be available for those moments. But it's like more of an approach of one to many versus one to one, and when you get your mindset shifted and you start going after large accounts and things like that on scale, and your efforts aren't just one-on-one, you're going to win big over the next few years. I think that's kind of what I'm coaching to.
Yeah. And I get a lot of salespeople who are asking me these days, so Jeff, should I go find a new job? Is AI going to put us out of business? And my answer is maybe someday, but I don't think it's going to happen soon. AI is still not able to create that relationship. And
Right.
While many things have changed in the 50 years that I've been selling, one thing has stayed the same, at least for now. And that is people still do business with people that they like and trust. And
always.
You're not going to have that with AI, at least maybe someday, but not yet. And before we go, we only have a couple minutes left, but I'll leave you on this last one. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice about success in sales, what would that be?
Yeah, I know this one. I've been talking about this lately. What I didn't do early in my career is keep my database and work my database the way I teach people to now. And what I mean by that is, every day there's an opportunity to add some people to your database, people you meet online, people you meet in your Uber driver, whoever it is, you meet people in your life, you have an opportunity to add them to your database. I wasn't diligent on that, and I wish I would have. So that's one of my regrets that I always, challenge people to. And I think the other thing that even at my age of 50 climbing Kilimanjaro, I wish I would have done some harder things earlier on, like really push myself as a younger adult. And I did some hard things, but not like this. This is new for me, and this commitment level and the vision, all that. And so maybe I should have, I thought about things a lot longer, but I finally take action as I'm older. And so I wish I'd have done that maybe as a younger professional,
Gotcha. Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We all should all over ourselves, but at least you came around and did it by the age of 50. John, before we go, I'm going to share my screen. Would you please tell people how can they meet with you? How can they connect with you if they're interested in working with you? They need a mortgage, they need some leadership coaching, or they're looking for a speaker. And I'm sharing my screen, but this will be converted to a podcast. So please spell out for people who will be listening how they can reach you.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just go to johndonnelly.com. What?
You froze for a second. I was going to say it for you, but you're back.
Okay, good. Sorry. johndonnelly.com, JOHNDONNELLY.com. I'm also the John Donnelly on LinkedIn. We talked about LinkedIn. That's an easy place to shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to connect with you. Obviously I'd help you with your mortgage. If you hear this and you're interested in finding about how, joining my company, I'd love to talk to you about that. If you just want to have me come talk at your company or share some of my lessons, I'd love to do that. So thanks for the opportunity here, Jeff.
Sure, man. Would you like to give out your cell phone?
I will. 214-837-4787. You can see it on my LinkedIn. I answer my phone, and I welcome a call.
Well, John, despite technical difficulties, thank you for sharing your brilliance with us so generously. And I'll end as I always do every week. Guys, please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. If you live in the Northeast like I do, stay warm and have a great weekend, John. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thanks for having me. It's been great.